a Motorsport Podcast Network production. Hey everyone, this is the V8 Sleuth Podcast. Aaron Noonan here, and this is our first episode of 2026. But it's a chat that I had just before Christmas in very late 2025. Now, David Cauchi has enjoyed some remarkable success across his time in Supercars with both 888 Race Engineering and in more recent times with Grove Racing. He's been a championship-winning race engineer with Jamie Whincup, and he also became a Bathurst 1000 winning team principal last year. So a few weeks after Bathurst and that amazing success, it came to a surprise to many of us, the news that he's going to leave the team, as it were, at the time, just as it's really reaching a level of becoming a Supercars championship contender. So on this two-part pod, we sat down to delve into the reasoning behind why he would leave after 4 years, just as things are really hitting their straps. But we also go right back to his motorsport start in Sydney, his early exposure to racing, and how a legendary engineer helped pave the way for him to join 888. There's a story of an exploding hire car window too, and his fear of how to explain that to Roland Dane, his take on Jamie Whincup, the pain of losing the 2010 championship, and his chance to race engineer away from 888. A lot of people might have forgotten about that one. There's lots to get through on this episode, so let's get cracking. Here's David Cauchi. It's part one of the V8 Sleuth Podcast. David Cauchi, thank you for hosting us here at, well, as we record this, it's your place of employment, but by the time this makes it out, you are out of the building here at Grove Racing.
That's right. Second last day. School's out.
We just got you just in time before you head out of here. But of all the questions and the things we're going to talk about, probably the number one thing that sticks in my mind is, does anybody call you David anymore? Because I feel like the whole motor racing community, industry, broadcasters, we just call you Cauchi. I feel like it's a bit impersonal. What happened to David? Is he still there?
Yeah, he's in there somewhere, but only my mum calls me David.
Oh.
And ever since, like, from high school, it's Supercars, motorsport, it's just been Cauchi. So,
was there a high school nickname that didn't stick all the way through? Or?
It was nothing else. I can't remember any other nickname. That was it. It's just Cauchi. Plain and simple.
Boring.
Yeah.
Dead set boring.
Pretty simple,
You've
right?
given us absolutely nothing. That's not a good way to start this podcast, mate. But
mate, we'll spice it up.
We'll spice it. I've got some spice
I'm
to cover.
sure there is.
Don't you worry about that. You're looking at the note sheet and starting to sweat, I can tell. You can't read upside down, though, so it's
nervous,
okay.
Yeah.
No, you're fine. Take me back to, so basically it's pretty much nearly 20 years since you started 888, but your motor racing before that was going on in Sydney. So how do you end up in this crazy caper? And is this the plan as a young bloke growing up in Sydney, or do you find this pathway somewhere a bit later down the track?
No, for me, I was always, I guess I was one of the lucky ones that I knew from a very young age that I wanted to be involved in motorsport. And I didn't have a family background in motorsport. My it's not like my dad was a racer or anything like that. So it came quite naturally. My memories are of watching Bathurst. Like, Bathurst was one of the most exciting days of the year, and still is. Of
Christmas
course.
for car racing,
exactly. And it was like literally getting up to watch the warm up at like 6:30 in the morning or whatever it was back then, and just sit there and watch it for the whole day. And I think it was just that's where the fascination began. So like, I was always very clear on what I wanted to do, that I wanted to be involved in motorsport. The driving side of it was, I did do a little bit of go-karting with my mate Rob Story. He was a very accomplished. So I met Rob. Well, I did work experience with his father, Wally Story, at Lansvale Smash Racing,
who were in Sydney. So they were Sydney's only team, really, by that stage, weren't they?
Right.
Yeah.
So that's sort of where it started, and then I met Rob. Did some racing with Rob. Rob was doing go-karts, and then eventually went to Formula Ford, and we then did the New South Wales State Series with him, and he was very successful on the State Series, and then did some national driving as well. I then did a little bit of go-karting, but that was as I was sort of starting university. I was already into doing my mechanical engineering course at University of Technology in Sydney. So, I had a bit of fun driving, but it was really engineering that was going to get me into the sport, and that's what I focused on whilst sort of hanging around, Lansvale Smash, and they took me to some races, and Wally became a sort of a bit of a mentor of mine, and eventually helped me out to get my first gig at Triple Eight.
So was it the pathway of you knocking on the door at Lansvale that opens it to the stories, or did you know the stories before the Lansvale thing? Or did you just ring up one day or loll on the door?
It was literally, I was looking for work experience that you had to do for a week in year 10, and I must have just found
it way cooler than a lot of other year 10 work experience.
Yes,
like,
well,
that's
why not?
pretty
Right?
impressive.
Yeah,
Go for the top. Go
exactly.
hard.
So it was just a blind sort of introduction, and got in there for a week, and then basically I just kept pestering them, and I just kept going back. And like I said, Wally was really good to me. Sort of took me under his wing a bit, and I enjoyed. I met Rob, and then it sort of all went from there.
This is like Cameron McConville, Lansvale.
Yep, Cameron McConville. I did a ride with him at Oran Park. So that the first time I ever got in a supercar was in a Lansvale Smash Commodore with Cam driving at Oran Park.
You know, he still talks about that.
No,
he doesn't. He doesn't really.
I bet, yeah.
So uni, is it very clear by this point that I am going to find a job in car racing somewhere? I'm going to have a degree that comes with me to get me to this thing. You're pretty clear. This is not I'm bumbling my way through, not quite figuring out what I want to do. You're pretty clear on where you're going and what you want to try to do here. So. Yeah,
exactly. For me, it was very clear. So I was really lucky. So I was just working through my degree. I still had I had some contacts. At this point, Wally was had converted to, was it Tasman already?
Tasman? Yeah.
So, another gentleman by the name of Gary Bailey, he was working at, he was working then at Triple Eight already, as the number one mechanic on Lounsey's car.
Who's an ex-Lansvale?
Who's
still around the
exactly.
Egglestons and all that
That's
stuff.
where I met him, as well. And he I found out that there was a job opportunity going at Triple Eight. They were looking for a young designer. I found out through Gary, applied for the job. I sent a resume to Ludo, it would have been, or I might have sent it to Gary, and Gary passed it on. And then, flew to Brisbane for an interview.
Is this sweaty palm stuff? Is this wow? This is the big.
Yeah, this was serious because Triple Eight were already, they were already starting to become a competitive team at that point. And there was some, big names there, and it was I knew, and like I said, followed the sport, so I knew. I knew they were an impressive organisation, already. This is in 2007.
So this is just after Bathurst.
This
all happens before.
So the interview, when I went for my interview in 2007, it would have been in September, and they were starting to build the chassis 12. Chassis 12, sorry.
Yeah,
chassis 12.
Hang on, where's the book when you...
Yeah, I needed the book, yeah. So, they were starting to build chassis 10, which was this sort of new generation of chassis and layout, and that was being built at the time when I went over for my interview. And then they went on to win that year at Bathurst with that new car. And, I think a week or so after Bathurst, they offered me the job.
Good time to roll in.
Yeah.
They've just won their second Bathurst in a row.
Yeah.
Jamie's fighting for the championship, and Craig's in the mix too. So is that imposing? I mean, so are you fresh out of uni at this?
Yeah. So then when my story is I had my last university exam on the Thursday. I packed up all my stuff on the Friday, drove to Brisbane on the Saturday.
Is this the Nissan Pulsar, the first car that you have? If you don't know the reference, have a listen to Pod Plus to the 10 questions. It'll make sense.
Yep. So packed up all my stuff, which wasn't a lot at that point, in the N14, and drove to Queensland. I went and stayed at Gary Bailey's place. To get started, and then started at Triple Eight on the Monday.
And this is the old workshop, isn't it?
This is Abbotsford Road. Which was the old Briggs Motorsport workshop.
Yeah.
And then basically, it would have been a couple of weeks after I got there. The race team went off. I didn't go, but the race team went off to Phillip Island for the last round. Was Phillip Island?
Last round.
Yeah, last round in Phillip Island, where that where it didn't quite go to plan for them. It was a
Gut one.
Yeah, it was a
Maybe didn't.
Yeah,
2 points at the end of the course.
exactly. So it didn't quite go to plan, but that was where it all started.
Did you find it an imposing place to roll into? I mean, Roland, Ludo's international resume is huge.
Yeah.
Dutto, Jeremy Moore.
Yeah.
There's a fair lineup.
Campbell Biddle.
Yep, Campbell's there too at that stage. It's a fair lineup.
Yeah.
Say, like, you're the new guy in there. So are you like, oh, yes, I'm just happy to be here. Like, I don't know how I got here, but I'll find my way.
It was, I guess a bit intimidating at the time, and you're still finding your feet. It was a new state. I'd moved away from home, and so it was all brand new. It was all happening, but I knew I'd arrived at a good place. That was clear that they were already sort of becoming a powerhouse. I got there with some, I was super lucky. I was just working with incredible people, like incredible engineers. Those guys are still some of the best in the business. Look, I landed at a very, very good place.
And good time.
Yeah.
Good time. Like the graph's on the way up.
Yeah.
It started slow at Triple A, but it was by that stage well and truly up and rolling.
It is difficult, establishing, Roland took over a team, and you have to build all the infrastructure. And back then it was everything you were designing, the chassis, all the suspension.
Do you remember your first bit?
First
bit that you designed.
Yeah,
that you claimed the credit for.
Yeah, it was the cool box. It was the dry ice cool box.
Every driver's friend.
So it was quite a popular design. We basically designed the first box, and had pump and fan to cool the helmet air that we run at Adelaide, because Adelaide was the first round, and it was super hot, and that was one of the first things that I did.
So you design engineer / data engineer at this point, or this is just purely you're at the workshop designing stuff?
So when I first got employed, so in 2007, it was pure just design, end of 2007, but then by the start of 2008, it became a racetrack role as well. So that added the data sort of element to it, and data and systems as well at the track. So yeah.
And is this where, because I should remember this because I'm sort of around for all this, but you look at the calendar and you go, a few years have passed since all this. So in that era, was Triple A having one central data engineer across the two cars, or one for each driver, or how that all work?
It was myself, and I think it was Paul Sleeman was also helping out. He was the in-house electrician. I think he was also helping out on the data side. So it was Jeremy race engineering Craig, and Dutto engineering Jamie. Then I was, I think I was working more directly on Lounsey's car at the time. And then I think it was the next year. It was the next year in 2009 where it became one. I think that was the year that they started to bring in people restriction rules.
Yeah, you had X amount of people per car.
So
performance.
The performance list. So that's it. So that came in 2009, and then that's when I became the sole sort of data engineer with the two race engineers.
So 2008's your first full season.
Full season, yeah.
So this is another Bathurst win. This is the three-peat. This is the third part of the three-peat. Yep. This is Jamie's first championship of 7 that you're tied into, plenty of that era. So you started, November 2007?
Yep.
Fast forward 12 months, Bathurst win, other wins along the way, championship about to be done at Oran Park.
Yep. Yeah.
This has happened very quickly here. Like, this is a good turnaround.
It was, yeah, like I said. And I mean, look, I'd love to take all the credit for it, but...
Go on. You've got the microphone. There you go.
Yeah, hey, I can say whatever I want, right? Yeah, but look, this is truly a team sport, and that team, at that point had a lot of superstars in it, from the driver lineup, the management team of RD and Roland. There was still Campbell, and I said before, Campbell was still there. I mean, look, all those guys, and Jeremy and Dutto. And not to mention then, of course, all the the mechanics and the pit crew. All those guys were operating at a very high level in the sport. We had very good engineering. It was so much fun because we would designing, we had a machine shop, fabrication, so designing new parts flat out, like continuously improving the parts on the car. It was just nonstop, and you could just design things and see them getting made. Like it was heaven. Like
compared to now, that's a different
thing.
It's very hard to do that stuff.
We would have a big list of new parts going into every race, developing the car. At that point, we were selling just mechanical parts to DJR, but we weren't doing sort of the IP stuff. So it was very, everything.
IE setups and
exactly. So everything was for us. Like you would burn the midnight oil, and it was for our own benefit. So it was fun. I had the best time.
It's a team that always, from the outside, clearly work hard, play hard.
Yeah,
was always the thing. Champions on the track. Champions at the after party was always the Triple Eight impression that I've always had, and have seen up close a few of them along the way.
Yeah.
Now that the role that you've ended up in team principal, you're managing culture, you're managing expectations, you're managing people. What did you learn about that era of trying to have the yin and the yang, the bit of both? Like it's the carrot and the stick. It's all the things that you try to have and have a balance between it all. But were there learnings in that early period of success that you've been able to then apply now, and you go, I know what RD was now thinking, doing, why that was happening, why he let us off the leash, why he pulled the leash, all of those things now make sense.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. It was, we were a family, it was a pretty, relatively small. I mean, that back then we were probably maybe 25, 30 people-ish, maybe 25. So we were tight-knit. We were having, we were serious on the track, and we got the job done when it mattered. But then off the track, we were pretty wild. And it was probably...
What was the wildest party? What was the biggest after party? Is it usually after wins or losses?
No, losses.
Losses.
Yeah, the losses were the bigger ones. There's some pretty interesting stories from Hamilton. Was that 2008?
Is that the year that Whincup's car got crashed and was out for the weekend?
So that's the wildest one. I've actually got a pretty good... Should I tell that story? Let's go. So
go for it.
We had a huge night on the Sunday night. Yeah, we rode off one car. Was it on the Saturday? So we lost.
Yeah, Jamie didn't even race.
Jamie didn't race the Saturday or the Sunday. So yeah, it was one of those. It was a pretty tough weekend for us. So Sunday night, it was all on. I remember lines of Jaeger bombs and shots, and just it was.
The Hamilton economy has never bounced back since.
So it was a big night. So then the next day, we're having to drive. I think we're driving to Auckland to fly home. It was rainy outside. There's some seriously sore heads. So we've gone to pack all the bags into the back of the Tarago at the time, and put the bags in. And I've gone to close the tailgate. Tailgate didn't quite shut. One of the bags was sort of holding it.
It happens, give it a little...
Yeah, I gave it a bit more and it didn't go. So I was like, I'm fed up with this. So I gave it everything I had.
Oh, no.
Except I've then pushed a suitcase through the rear screen, and the rear screen's exploded. So
in the rental
car. So there's glass.
The excess is not looking good, right?
So there's shattered glass everywhere. We've still got to drive a couple of hours in the rain. So anyway, we just got on with it and took off. So the whole trip, I'm feeling like death, and I'm just thinking about having to tell RD that I've, that's my biggest concern at this point, is having to tell RD that I've exploded the hire car. So so we got there, we dropped the car off.
Is the bit where they say, "Is it full of fuel, sir?" And you go,
yeah,
sure.
But it's missing.
Hopefully, don't look at the rear.
Yeah. So so I get into the airport, we check in. I see RD sitting by himself at a table, reading a newspaper. So I was like, all right, well, you got to, man up, and off we go. Mm-hmm. So I sat in front of him and I said, RD, how are you? He was like, yep, Cauchi, And I said, there's been a bit of an incident with one of the hire cars. And he sort of barely looked up at me from reading. Looks up at me, he says, right. So I was like, this is what happened. And he said, right, well, you know what it is? He said, it all started the night before. You were out, you were drinking, you were thinking about, I won't say what he said, but you were thinking about this and that.
Could I guess what he was thinking about? He was fleeing away?
Yeah.
Trying to find a wife?
Yep, you're along those routes. I'm not sure it would say a wife, but yeah, something along those lines. Yeah. And then, and this morning you were reckless. He's like, if it was your own car, you would have checked to see why the tailgate wasn't closing, and you would have not done that. But he goes, you know what? He goes, anything you've done, he goes, I've done it 100 times worse. Now fuck off. And that was it. So, he knew.
No, we're taking it out of your pay. No, selling you off.
Well, we ended up getting it on insurance, so it didn't cost us anything. But look, he understood that, every now and then you've got to have a little blowout, literally. And I think based on a lot of the stories I've heard him tell me, that he was exactly true, that no matter what we did, he got up to a lot worse. Back in his days in sort of floating around the Formula One scene and all that. So yeah, he understood some of that stuff. That was, I guess, sometimes I would say softer side of RD, but he did allow us to let our hair out. But then his expectation was that when it came down to getting the job done and, that we delivered to the highest level, that was it. It was that simple. It's like, yeah, we can go out and have fun and drink and, have all these wild parties. But if that's only if we're doing the job on track to the level, and the level was winning. It was all about winning and nothing else.
Was he imposing? Or did you guys get to see the softer side that maybe the outside world he didn't want to see?
Yeah, you got to see that, that everyday side, the human side of, just talking at lunchtime and, telling stories and having a laugh, of course. Like, and that sort of bit of that party culture, he sort of drove that as well.
And he was there. It wasn't like he said, "Off you go, boys, you go with party guy."
He was there.
He was there.
He was there. He could do it as good as anyone. So yeah, but like I said, like if don't get me wrong, then if he expected something of you, or you didn't deliver, he wasn't very friendly.
It's one way to put it, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that, like I said, but you knew where you stand. You knew that, yeah, like, we're here to win, and it's that simple. And if we're not, we're going to have to talk about it and work it out.
Find a way to do it.
Find a way to turn it around. Yeah.
Yeah. So 08, good year. Yeah. Bathurst Championship. That's Jamie. So Jamie's on the board.
First championship, yeah.
He gets on the board a few more times if you don't know the story in the years that followed. Then probably the thing that's most impressive about that 888 period is that there's constant change, yet the results don't fall. There's no Ford deal that goes.
Yeah.
Jump from BF to FG, big project. Jump from FG to Commodore, big project, really big project.
Yeah.
No, Car of the Future is only a few years away. Jump there. The graph doesn't drop. The results graph still charges along high, lots of trophies, lots of wins, championships. And most other places, there's a drop whenever there's a big ticket change like that. There's multiples within multiple years and no dip. It's like that's the ultimate, surely, on how to run a race team. And it's kind of like other sports have drafts the way you're supposed to fall down the ladder and come back up. No falling down the ladder there.
No. We actually thrived on change. Like we liked it when there was a different format or something that needed some different thinking, different tracks. Going to a new track for the first time. All that stuff. We saw it as an opportunity. There's certain things where, you especially when you're winning, I guess you want stability or you don't want things to change, regulation wise, but we actually embraced it. And
challenge.
Yeah,
bring it on.
It was a challenge. And then we wanted to, if it was a new track, if it was going to Abu Dhabi or Bahrain for the first time, we wanted to win that race going, we've changed from Ford to Holden. All right, we want to win our first race in a Holden.
Did that too.
We did that, and so there was just that mentality, and that was a big part of the culture that we just wanted to be the best at anything and everything, and no matter what was thrown at us, we wanted to show that we could excel.
I can't remember the stats specifically, but it has run on in the period of the first race of the new season, 888 won, I don't know what it was. It was 15 out of 16 or it was 18 out of 20 or whatever it got up to there. It was ridiculous no matter what, different location, model car, driver, sponsor, platform, era, was ridiculous. It was dead set ridiculous. Tell me about Whincup. There's a lot to unpack here. He's an interesting character in a lot of ways. What's his evolution in the 07, 08 period from, he's trying to chase down, he's got a seat, he's back in, he becomes a champion, and the rest follows from there. What do you see in the evolution and the big marker points that perhaps we don't see on the outside in terms of him becoming the Jamie Whincup, who is 7-time, 4-time Bathurst, 100 and whatever it is, 20-something races, or ridiculous.
Crazy
ridiculous.
numbers, right? Well, I first met Jamie when actually he was racing for Tasman. I still had a relationship with Rob and Wally, and so that's where I first met Jamie. But look, Jamie was just, I guess it's just everything in the background, his attention to detail, and his work ethic. I guess that's what that's what everyone doesn't see. The outside world just sees us at the racetrack. They don't see the work that we put back in at the factory and what we go through, the debriefs, the analysis, the honest conversations, the hard conversations. All that stuff happens behind sort of closed doors in our office, factories, and boardrooms and things like boardrooms and stuff. So I guess that's what I learned from Jamie, particularly around like his preparation and his attention to detail. That's where you turn up to the race weekend, and it's, I say even these days, it's 80% to 85% is already won or lost before you even turn up to the race. Once you've turned up, it's really about execution at that point. If you haven't prepared, if you haven't done your homework, if the car's setup is in the wrong window, it's very hard to then turn that into a win. Sometimes you do. It's possible. It's not impossible. But that's what we became very good at, and that was driven by a lot of and the driver can set the tone for a lot of the culture as well. And I think Jamie certainly can take a lot of responsibility for the attention to detail and the preparation that we all sort of that became a big part of our culture. A lot of that was not driven necessarily by Jamie, but he led by example.
Yeah. Do you feel I have a take on this, I'm interested in yours. I have a feeling he's the Nissan GTR of his era. So remember the Nissan GTR, the dominant car, everyone hated Godzilla because it just won, it beat the Commodores and all the other stuff. Fast forward 20, 25 years, and the fan view is, oh, wow, what amazing cars they were. They were awesome, this and that. Yeah. Very different take.
Yeah.
I feel Jamie's the V8 Supercar era, Nissan GTR. At the time, Whincup again.
Yeah.
Whincup wins again. Whincup again.
Yeah.
There's another trophy for Whincup. Whincup, etc., etc. But it takes time for people to then stop and look back and go, no one's got near those numbers. No one's achieved what he's achieved. No one's done it the way he did it. Wow, we saw something pretty special at the time. Just at the time, we didn't appreciate it.
No, for sure.
Do you feel that? See that? I mean, you worked with him way closer than I ever have.
Yeah. Jamie's still a good friend, and if Jamie was doing that in Formula One, for example, as an Australian racing in Formula One, he would have been a national hero, right? We would have knighted him. But yeah,
don't get any idea. Don't let him get anything here.
But
old 7 times looking for a knighthood here.
But sort of, I guess, in supercars, the dominance sometimes wasn't accepted, and and again, he was teammate to, and him and Craig are very different personalities. So, the stark, very big contrast. Craig Lowndes was the people's driver, right? Like, he was the fan favorite. No one was going to take that away from Craig, and probably no one has to this day. So,
pretty hard mantle.
Yeah. So you're always going to come up in that from a fan perspective. You're always going to look second best to Craig there. But they were just different. Craig really, that was his thing, and still is. And Jamie was I mean, I'm not saying much more focused, but his thing was going racing and winning. And yes, the fan stuff and all the commercial stuff is a part of the sport, and it's got to be done. And he did it, and he is a good, fun personality to be around. But I guess maybe the general public didn't quite see that side of him, probably because he didn't show it as much. But yeah, from the inside, like, I think the people that worked with Jamie had a very different view of compared to the public.
I was going to say,
no doubt about that.
He has a sense of humor.
Oh,
has a devilish streak in him.
Yeah,
he probably never let it out publicly.
No.
To the fans, to the wider world. But those who know him,
we had some fun private.
Could be a loose unit. Let's put it that way.
Absolutely, but that was the thing. We wanted to do those things in private. It was you don't need. And that's probably where some superstars go wrong. Is it gets out in the public, and you don't need everybody to know about everything you do, and you're allowed to be a private person. But yeah, he was a superstar. He was a champion. So it's hard to keep things private when you are the guy that's winning multiple championships. But that's what he wanted, and sometimes maybe that came across the wrong way.
That's when you go from being the guy who's trying to get there to the guy who's there to the guy who's winning too much.
Yeah.
It's funny how the narrative changes around people over time, and I think give it another 5-10 years, that might be different again. So 2008, we're sort of jumping around, but it works well in this pod. It's kind of just how we do it.
I like it.
So championship win, Bathurst win. So these are they're the two big boxes.
Yeah.
Bang, bang. At this point, is your goal to be a race engineer? Like, this is I'm going to do my apprenticeship here, I'm going to do the data, going to keep designing. But the problem with these joints, it's like successful footy teams. If they're successful, they tend to not have holes that open.
Yep.
So do you just have to sit there and wait?
Yeah, pretty much. Like, it was really stable. I mean, look, I was enjoying myself, and yeah, look, the goal became I had a lot to learn, and I was around the best people to learn that. Jeremy and Dutto as race engineers, I learned a huge amount from them. And then technically with design stuff with Ludo.
How's your French, by the way?
Yeah, with my Fringlish, as we call it. It was he was he's a personality. Anyone that knows Ludo, so I was in the best place to become I was surrounded by the best engineers, and I just had to embrace that and absorb as much of the knowledge and as possible. But the thing was, all those guys were very good at what they did. So, and the team was successful. It was a good place to be. So neither of them was going anywhere in a hurry, and then it wasn't really until eventually Adrian left and Dutto then got promoted to team manager that opened up a place for race engineering for me in 2014. So I guess it was a long wait, and I mean, I think one of the questions before was what were the job offers that you regret not taking?
It's like the Pod Plus 10 questions.
Yes, sir. And but and there were a few in that point where
and tempting because, hey, look, I might be stuck here and there's not a hole to open into.
Yeah.
As an engineering job going at X team.
Yeah.
Or maybe.
But I guess I stuck it out and waited, and eventually the opportunity did come, and I'm super grateful that it did, because again, I then had the support from all those people to help me, because trust me, stepping from a data systems engineer, a performance engineer role into race engineering, it's hard. Even though I'd been around it and seen it, go on. It's still a big step. If I look back to 2014, and look, you always learn. I mean, even today, I'm still learning about. Even though I'm not very close to the engineer, I don't directly do detailed technical stuff in my role as team principal now. I still go to the meetings and things, and I'm still learning things, and it's so you never stop learning. But 2014 was a big learning curve.
Were there any of these offers that were really tempting that you nearly took, or was it all nice to have the interest? But I'm sort of
look. I was happy. Again, it was a great team, good culture. We were winning. Like, there was.
It's hard to leave a winning.
It's hard.
No matter what you're doing.
Exactly. It was hard to leave. There was probably more money and things like that. But at that age, I was smart enough to realize that that it was sort of not. It was better off to stay, and I'm glad I did.
One of the other things that when you're in a big team, and when I ask about these things, you got big ticket sponsors, a Vodafone, a Red Bull, a Holden, a Caltex, where it might have been, or Ampol as it became. There's projects. There's other stuff in the periphery to the race car bits. There's the Sandman. There's the ride car. Was it the Falcador or whatever it was called? The Falcon, the big started as a Falcon, became a Commodore ride car that Jansen Button drove and all that stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
There was other projects. There was other things going on. That's the sort of stuff you don't get anywhere else.
Yeah, that's right. Like we were, an engineering business, and we took on a lot of things. Like we were flat out. Like that team in that era, it might have looked easy from the outside because we were, winning a lot. But I can promise you that there was a lot of hours spent. Some of the changes you mentioned, like changing models, changing manufacturers. They're big changes, and we were designing everything, like a lot of things on the car, like every bracket, every bit of suspension, engine components, all the interior. Like we could lay out the interior of the car the way we wanted. You're just deciding where to put the ECU, or you're putting it there. Like you're thinking about all these things. So we had a lot more freedoms than we have today. So yeah, huge amount of work went on, and then we're doing little projects like Sandmans and things like that. So again, as an engineer, it was a lot of fun.
But as an engineer, by this stage, you said about it before that it's just some bits for DJR that Triple Eight was doing at the time. But then suddenly there's customer teams, customer cars, FGs for Paul Cruikshank, chassis for Dick Johnson Racing, did their own engines still. And then there's that IP, that setup stuff, the ongoing technical support.
Yeah.
As an engineer, is that gutting to be basically handing over that stuff that you've just worked on? Or you see the bigger picture that, hey, this is a business, it needs to be funded. And if we're going to keep winning, we need money coming in the door.
Yeah, you're spot on there. And that was, when we did the FG, I remember there was, 5 chassis, and there was 2 for us and 2 for DJs and 1 for Cruikshanks. And they were all being built in our factory, and we...
Yeah, those teams came into your...
Yeah, a couple of mechanics from each team would come in. And so that felt, it did feel like someone, strangers, your competitors coming into your house. I will admit, like from the competitive part in me didn't like it at all. But we also knew that, a part of that was, it was income for the team. It meant that we could have the resources and the people, and we could have then everything we needed to then be successful on track. But putting in all that hard work and, then I guess sort of giving it away as such. Yes, we were selling it, but as a person that was sort of, then later on, like you're engineering against these guys that you're giving it away to, it feels wrong, but you had to understand the bigger picture from a business perspective. And there were times where, it was, tough, and then sometimes your customers beat you, and that's the toughest. And, but that was also a motivation. And, it was one thing RD said, well, if someone else is beating us with the same equipment and the same IP, well, they've done a better job somewhere else than us. So that's a place for us to lift. So then I guess, again, you turn that into motivation and drive to make sure that we would beat them next time.
You've jumped to my next question easily. What's worse? Getting rolled by a customer car, or getting beaten by somebody else who's got a completely different mouse kit that's done it better, or mousetrap, I should say.
Yeah, probably the customer car, because you know that
it doesn't have that feeling. Well, we took money off you anyway, though. I guess that's RD's feeling.
That's but I look. I mean, being beaten, I'll be honest,
sucks either way.
It sucks. For me, I guess it didn't matter who it was. Like I just hate losing, and the whole team was like that. Look, I mean, the good thing about a customer team winning is you knew that they didn't have anything that you didn't have, right? So it means that on that day they executed something better. As a team, driver, combination, they just did a better job. When another team beats you, you're then like, you don't know, like, what did they do? What was their setup?
what
like,
they got.
you know, what have they got that I don't have? Is this, and so that's, I guess, that's the harder one. You know, when the customer beats you, you could later on would debrief, and you would find out what setup they run. You would get some data and things like that. So you could, again, you had the answers. Whereas when a Tickford or a HRT or whoever it was, if they beat you, well, they weren't going to call you up and
Tell you how
and send you their data. So I guess that was then the harder one to try to understand and work out why. But they all suck.
That's the easy answer.
That's the best answer.
There's wins and losses along the way and all this stuff, but in that period, there's a lot more wins than there are losses. Other people would give their right arm to have that number of wins as an organisation. 2010's an interesting one for me because that is a customer car chassis at Dick Johnson's with James Courtney that ends up winning.
Yeah.
And not to be disrespectful to the drivers, the team, because they did the job, and there's that amazing storyline in Sydney.
Yeah.
But you could count the fists full of points that you guys lost that year through various dramas, mechanical, all sorts. Everyone's probably going to go to 2014 Bathurst as kind of one that got away because it's so public and it's so visible. But 2010, I feel like, is one that sits in the back and then you guys go on a blitz anyway after that.
Yeah.
Is that one of the ones that sits in the guts because of not just the Sydney thing, but all the stuff during the year that kind of led to that point?
Yeah, you know, it was the first year with that car and that manufacturer.
You can say the word "hold."
Yeah, okay.
It's okay, David. It's okay.
Yeah, well,
it doesn't exist anymore.
No, they don't. So, yeah, we did give away a lot of, you know, I think it was the first race, like the rear diffuser. Was it the first race? Was Adelaide? Like, yeah, the rear.
Oh, no. You guys had gone on the blitz in the Middle East.
Oh, sorry, yeah, that
won
was
the first four. Abu Dhabi, Bahrain, and
then we went.
I think Adelaide, the rear diffuser's flapping into James gets black flag.
Exactly, yeah, that one. It wasn't the first race. Yeah, but you're absolutely right.
Because it always was, yeah.
And you know, so moments like that where you give away those sort of points, and yeah, in a tight battle when, you know, DJR had a very good package in the FG that we had spent years developing. And they, you know, again, fair play to them. They operated the car and ended up, you know, well and executing over the year well enough. How many? They didn't win that many. Was it like?
I think he won 5 races that year. He went on a blitz with the soft tyres. James
had a bit of,
at Queensland and Winton, and I think he got one at Sandown late in the year.
Yeah. So,
but he was there or thereabouts for most of the year. But if you guys weren't winning, you were having a drama.
Issue.
Townsville, there was an issue for you guys with Jamie as well.
And
Phillip Island 500.
Yeah.
He and Steve Owen started at the front and ended up, there was an issue in the car from memory. And anyway, when you lost points, you lost big points.
Yeah.
You just couldn't pull it back.
So yeah, you know, they're tough when, I guess, you've got the car speed, but again, having reliability. I mean,
you're being nice.
Being nice, but
it sucked.
No, absolutely, it sucked. And I mean, geez, we've been reminded this year. I mean, just go back to the race just gone at Adelaide. Talk about, like, you know, I guess reliability. Put the other bit aside. You know, T8 had an engine issue in a critical race, and so reliability is a part of racing, and it still is and forever will be. To finish first he must finish.
I've heard that somewhere before.
Yes,
yeah, it's an oldie, goodie.
And it's true. And that year, definitely, that's what cost us, which is gutting.
So we get a couple more years. Jamie goes on the tear after that. So 11 title. Don't forget, Craig's still winning Bathurst here with Scafie as well.
Yeah,
you know, they back-to-back Phillip Island. They win Bathurst. They nearly win again in 11. Jamie wins Bathurst in 12 in the championship. 12's probably his zenith. It's probably his most dominant year. It's the end of that car or that era.
Yeah.
I think AAA and FPL won every race in the championship that year.
Yeah.
I mean, you could say that now, everyone would be like, boring.
Yeah, exactly.
But it happened. At this point, though, the race engineering thing.
Yep.
You've been around, the success is there, there's no opportunity, the doors are not opening, but you do get to race engineer, but not at AAA. And I reckon everyone's forgotten this little...
Actually, I'd forgotten. I was trying to think, where's he going?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So you get sort of farmed out.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I did a year with Lucas Dumbrell and Dean Fiore. Yeah. So, that was again as hard. It was they were based in Melbourne as well, so it was remote. So then it was traveling, to Melbourne to help out.
Because they're running 888 custom BFs, the new car.
Exactly. So they had
so that was the tie-in. So part of the deal was
the IP,
your supply.
Exactly. Yeah. So,
are you thinking this is great? This is my little opportunity to learn off Broadway, or shit? I'm now going to go the other end of the grid.
Yeah, like it was, I guess, tough to not be involved in the core race team, with the Red Bull team.
But you're still working there.
I'm still working there, so yeah, I'm still in the factory every day, other than when I was then sort of flying to Melbourne to sort of spend a day or two at the Dumbrell factory. But yeah, like it was, that was a sort of, I don't know, funny. It was a funny year, but it was good. Again, I'd never race engineered before, so I guess it was a lower pressure sort of way of sort of learning the craft a little bit.
Was that their plan? Was that Roller's plan?
I guess so. You had to sort of blood yourself somehow, and I guess that was a good way. It was a good opportunity to, again, for me to learn and for them to see, I guess, if I was capable of doing it at some point. So it was a tough year. It was very disjointed, I'm a big believer you got to be, present at work in the factory, around the team. So it was a bit disjointed. We sort of made it work well enough, but yeah, the results for that team weren't amazing, but it was a good way to really start to learn, race engineering in practice, race engineering 101.
It's off Broadway. The bright lights are not on you.
Yeah.
And that's where we're going to pause our chat with David, or Cauchi, as I feel I really need to call him. Everybody seems to, but there's plenty more ahead to chew through on part 2. And it's there that we discuss that unbelievable finish at Bathurst in 2014, and then being benched as engineer just half a season later after winning the championship with Whincup at the end of 2014. David opens up too on leaving AAA, how that affected his relationship with Jamie, why he's now left Groves, and what could be next. That's coming up in the next ep of the V8 Sleuth podcast. It's available now for you to go and have a listen to. I'll catch you there, or I'll catch you next time that you tune into the pod. Bye for now.